Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bell. Today, I'm here with Juan Cruz, principal of the Rockaway Meadow School, and Mr. Chris Wack, who is the principal of the Intervale Elementary School. Today, we're here to talk about some helpful tips for parents regarding going back to school. We're having a little roundtable discussion, and I'm going to ask my colleagues some questions, and we'll get their input. What do you think, Mr. Cruz?
Sounds great. Thanks for having us, Dr. Sutter.
All right. You are
Sounds
welcome.
great. Appreciate it.
Okay. What are some key things that parents should focus on to ensure a smooth transition back to school, Mr. Walker?
Dr. Sutter, I think routine is key. I think one of the things children crave is knowing what the expectation is. So I think one thing that parents can do to help their children prepare for September, for the school year, is to get them to bed on time. Make sure that they're waking up in a timely manner, having a healthy breakfast, and they come to school excited and ready to go.
Those are all good points. Mr. Cruz, anything you want to add?
Sure. Yeah. I think the other key point, too, is if there's any anxiousness on the part of parents or the students, reach out to the school. If it's a new kindergartner coming in, I know that all of our elementary schools, we have a kindergarten social prior to the start of the school year, which is great for our youngest students. Mm-hmm. If we have students in grades 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 who are new to the building, the parents are welcome to reach out to the office staff or to the principal in their respective buildings to set up a possible tour of the building to try and ease some of those concerns. And in addition to that, just speaking positively about school, about the exciting aspects of, hey, you're going to meet some new friends, or you're going to see your friends that you haven't seen in quite some time. Anytime you talk positively about a school setting, it's usually it has a positive effect on the child. Absolutely. So those are my pointers.
Those are good points, Mr. Cruz. I'm going to be sending home an opening day letter. It's going to explain some things about the district. And I say in my letter that you'll be sending home letters as well. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. We'll be communicating with families probably the third week of August, making sure that they understand what the expectations are. As Mr. Cruz said, I agree, alleviating some of that anxiety, making sure that parents are on board, know what the expectations are, know what the ground rules are when the children are coming to school. So all of that kind of extracurricular noise can be removed, and they can just come to school happy, healthy, and excited to meet their teachers.
Awesome. Yep. In that letter, Mr. Cruz, would they, if they're confused at all, would they be able to call the school? What will they be able to do? What's the modus operandi?
So they can contact the school, the head secretary. They can speak to the school counselor. They can speak to the principal of their respective buildings as well. They can also check the school website for updates because we often have updates on our calendars and important documents available as well. And on our school websites, we also have all of our staff listed. So if they have specific questions geared towards a teacher, for example, like if they found out who their child's teacher is going to be, they can always reach out to the teacher as well. And if they have more specific questions, they're welcome to reach out to the school principal and the school counselor, and we're happy to help.
Excellent.
And along those lines, I think a good point, Mr. Cruz. Parents are often questioning or concerned about what school supplies their kids will need, especially preschoolers or kindergartners who may be coming in. Our websites have that information. Our teachers will post that, and many of the schools have it on Instagram as well. So I know this is the time of year where, department stores start having sales and they start putting school supplies up. We want to make sure that parents know that it's minimal, it's not expected, but if there are things that the children want to bring to school to begin the school year, that's available to them.
Good. Those are great points. I know you guys hit on some of those points, but what can parents do to make their children more comfortable? If they go to school the first day and their kids come home and they're a little scared, or we have some kids that in the first day of school where, they're leaving their family for the first time, what can they do?
I think we're very fortunate in Parsippany. We have full-time school counselors.
Okay.
As Mr. Cruz said earlier, we are an open door policy district. I mean, our principals, our counselors, our school psychologists are available for parents all of the time. So if kids come home and they're concerned, I think it's important for parents to process that, right? what a child is saying and what is actually happening at school sometimes are two different things. But I think regardless, it's important to act on that and communicate with the personnel at school so that we can make sure that the child has a good experience. And again, I think the positivity is critical, because if kids have a positive experience at home about school, they're going to come to school with a very positive experience. And everybody responds very nicely to that.
Mr. Cruz, for new parents that, are coming to school, and even for those that are there at school, how would you explain to them about making friends? So, for example, their child comes on and they say, I didn't have a great day today. I didn't have a lot of people to talk to, or, they want to make more friends in general. What would be your advice?
I would definitely encourage the parents to reach out to the teacher in the classroom and also to the school counselor. Speaking from experience, I have to say that the school counselors have been a huge help in making that happen. So, for example, you can always contact the counselor and say, is there a possibility of creating a social group for my child with other students that may be experiencing something similar, so that it's a small group of students that get pulled out and they get to play like board games. They get to socialize and talk about things that they have in common, things of that nature. In addition to that, I think something that's should not be overlooked is how great our teaching staff is in picking up on these cues and also providing students with opportunities to work together within the classroom. So I would definitely say to the parents, it's definitely a valid concern, but give your children a little bit of time at the beginning of the school year to develop those friendships, because there are a lot of kids that are a little nervous about making new friends. But through their interactions in the classroom and working with their teachers and the school counselor, and then at the same time, the principals are very visible as well. We had that opportunity of easing some of those concerns and making sure that the students are being taken care of.
Excellent. Well, for those parents that are concerned about food, lunchtime, of course, we serve food, snacks. What would you tell them if their child has a food allergy, or if their child is a picky eater? What would you say?
Well, like Mr. Cruz said about our teaching staff and our counselors, our nurses are phenomenal as well. Mm-hmm. And I know that they do an awful lot of training to make sure that school personnel is well equipped to deal with any children with any medical issue. Certainly, food allergies are very prevalent these days. I know it's very concerning for parents. I have a niece who has a serious nut allergy. We take that very, very seriously. I advise parents to communicate again. Okay. Speak to this school counselor, the nurse, the school principal. We're available to discuss any concerns you may or may not have. And then specific measures are taken to make sure that those kids are not in a setting where a potential allergy can exist. So the schools, I think, do a really good job making sure that, one, parents know what they can expect if their child has an allergy, and two, what measures are taking place to make sure that they're not in a situation where they can be exposed to something that could be an issue.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz.
I'll add to that our school nurses are extremely thorough because they care so much about the health of our children. So please do not get annoyed if our nurses constantly contact you to follow up regarding paperwork. It is their responsibility. And like I said, they truly care about all the children in the building. The other piece with that, with the food allergies, possibly, when you do buy food in district, you are encouraged to go on the Pomptonian website, which is our food provider. As a in-district parent, we do this for our children. And because my two children do have allergies to certain nuts, we do have to include that on the paperwork. And Pomptonian does an excellent job, and our lunch aides within the building, of highlighting those students that do have allergies. And if there is a certain food that the child grabs that may be sensitive to this allergy, they are not allowed to take it. And the food must be taken away. And in addition to that, they have to pick from something that is safe for them to eat. Pomptonian is really good about having alternatives for the students. So please make sure that you do visit the Parsippany Troy Hill School District website for information regarding Pontonian and any paperwork that may be required to fill out.
That's a good point, Mr. Cruz. We talk about absences a lot because I get a lot of phone calls at the central office about absences. Can you tell the parents and the audience why it's important that they call in the morning? Why is it important that they, if their child's going to be absent, that they notify the school?
Yeah, great question. First and foremost, showing up is critical.
Correct.
Right. So we don't want children or staff that are sick reporting to school. But if in fact, your child is not feeling well, it's important to let the school know, because we take special measures in the morning to make sure that every single kid is accounted for. So
special measures include calling.
Correct. So if parents do not call, it becomes a burden on the school office. And there are so many things that we're trying to address in the morning, as you can imagine. Want to make sure that we're there for the children first and foremost. But when we get pulled away to have to call multiple parents who haven't called in, that serves as a distraction, and it creates a real difficult environment for the office for those first 20, 30 minutes of the school day. So we do have a hotline. It is required that you call in if your child's going to be out. Please make sure you do that, because if you don't, you will get a call. We do need to account for every child every morning. And when you call in and follow protocols and procedures, it makes our lives much easier. It makes the teachers' lives easier. And it just allows for a much smoother opening of the school day.
Anything you want to add to that?
Yes. In addition to that, you can also go on Genesis and you can include a rationale as to why your child will be out for the day. It's important that you do either follow through with Genesis or contact the school. And please understand that if we do not receive any type of phone call, or if the phone calls are not returned, we will continue to call all the numbers on the emergency contact list to find out exactly where the child is, because that is our number one priority, is the safety of the child, and to make sure that they are at home where they're supposed to be or at school with us.
Absolutely. We are a busing district. A lot of times questions come up at the central office about buses. Their child's on a bus, the bus is late, there might have been an incident on the bus. For a parent or a child that has a situation on the bus, what do you recommend they do?
Well, first and foremost, we talked about open lines of communication. I think if there's a problem, I would encourage you to call the school principal or whatever personnel at the school would be applicable.
Okay.
I also would let you know that for any bus issues that we have, if a bus is running late, if there's traffic, if there's something impeding your child return to home, or for that matter, arriving at school, we have a Thrill Share platform, a communication that allows parents to know kind of what's going on at the school.
That's important.
Very important. And it's important for parents to sign up to make sure that they are receiving those text messages and or emails. And in the event that the child is going to come home at a different time or later than expected, parents should receive notifications so that they don't panic. And it's important for parents to check that information. I would also recommend during inclement weather days, things of that nature, make sure that you're aware of what's going on. You can be tied in through a text message and or an email, and that's very, very important. Again, if we have a situation where kids are delayed in getting home, that's our mode of communication. If parents call the school repeatedly, it delays that. So our primary responsibility and our goal, as Mr. Cruz said, is the safety of our students. And those platforms allow us to keep children safe and to communicate to parents very quickly.
Mr. Cruz, on that note, if a child that's on a bus that normally comes to school through a bus, if the parents for some reason are not going to have the child take the bus that day, what do you recommend?
Recommend that the parent contact the school just to let them know that, for example, Bob will be dropped off today, or we are picking Bob up this afternoon. That is a very common practice. We typically ask that the parents contact the secretary or the head secretary or their teacher in writing or by phone to make sure that this is okay, because sometimes students can get confused and they'll come to us and say, hey, I'm going home today walking, and they don't have permission to walk home. That's another piece too, that if your child is a walker, you do have to put that in writing that they are allowed to walk home. In addition to that, we ask that you contact the office if the child is going to be picked up. We ask that you contact the office by 11 a.m. because once lunch rolls around, it does become, I don't want to say chaotic. It's organized chaos in that sense that we have to set up. We have to make sure that our noontime aides are in their correct positions. And the second part of the day typically goes by very fast. And our teachers don't have an opportunity to really check their email after lunch. So that's why we ask parents or guardians to contact us before or at 11 o'clock to let us know whether or not the child will be taking the bus that day.
And Bob, if I could just add to that, it's important not to change your child's route every day.
Correct.
I think Mr. Cruz's point is well taken. When it's done late in the day, it's dangerous, quite honestly, because school personnel, again, may or may not get that information. Mr. Cruz made a good point, too. I think you want to make sure if it's later in the day and an emergency comes up, you call the main office. Do not email, because sometimes, a parent may assume that an email has reached school personnel, and we haven't had a chance to check email for whatever reason. So, my advice to parents is try to limit how often, you change your child's dismissal procedures. If and when you have to and emergencies come up, we realize that. Please make sure you do it in a timely manner, and please make sure you get it confirmed with somebody either through email or phone message, so we know that the child is getting home safely.
Agreed.
Okay. This is a good learning session for parents, for community members. When I was a principal, if you can believe that, going back a number of years, we used to have birthday parties in the classroom. Parents would say, I want to bring in this, I want to bring in that. What's the expectation for birthdays in a classroom?
We limit the food, quite frankly. With the food allergies today, we don't want food coming in. We try to do something non-edible, a sticker, a pencil, something, that recognizes the child and honors their birthday. But again, our primary responsibility is to keep the children safe. So
food allergies.
Yeah, with the food allergies of today and being a parent myself.
Sugar.
Yeah, and being a parent myself, parents have a feeling of, this is how we did it when I was a kid.
Right.
That doesn't always hold water in today's day and age, because things have changed dramatically. And our responsibility is to keep children safe. And you're right, with the sugar and obesity levels and the fact that food allergies are so prevalent, we try to limit that. Schools do recognize the kids usually through a PA system where they recognize their birthday. Each child typically would get a card many times. And then the classroom teacher, along with the parent, may do something in the classroom that is within our guidelines.
Yeah, in the past, we've had parents come in and read to the child's class during the day of their birthday. And typically the teachers will also celebrate their birthday with a happy birthday, either at the beginning of the day, a happy birthday sing-along, at the beginning of the day or the end of the day for the student. To echo what Mr. Wack said, he's 100% right. The safety of the students, specifically with food allergies nowadays, we really limit what comes in during those celebrations. And we try and keep it to, a sticker or a pencil. I've had some parents bring in books for all the children in the classroom too. But again, it's not required. It's what the parents feel comfortable providing to the classroom.
So if there's a question on what to bring in for a birthday, they would simply just call the school, call you guys. Like how would you want that done?
We typically have guidelines in our parent-student handbook.
Okay.
And I forget the exact page number, but it is included in the parent-student handbook where they can see what our expectations and guidelines are. We have had some parents in the past try to bring in food, and unfortunately, we have to return that food, throughout the day. And our office staff typically contacts the parent with me, and we communicate with the parents that, that's not allowed.
We don't want them to.
And again, just to add to that, I think absolutely it's in the parent handbook, and I know we discuss it. Teachers do at back to school night. But if there's a question, as I said, I feel like I can speak for my colleagues. The principals and districts are very open to discussion with parents. If you're not sure, call, because it's an uncomfortable conversation for all of us when parent sends something in, they've purchased something, because it will be returned at the end of the day.
They feel bad.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And on top of that, too, our PTA presidents also know the guidelines regarding the celebrations. So they're also a good source as well for the parents. And going back to your original question regarding the, trying to make the students and the families comfortable coming in to school, the PTA is a great resource for parents. And I know, in speaking from my colleague, Mr. Wack, we'll have a PTA representative there for our kindergarten social for our students on the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a really good opportunity for the parents to get to know the PTA presidents and several members of the PTA. And in addition to not only providing activities for the schools, the PTA is also very knowledgeable about what can be brought in or what can't be brought in as well.
Excellent. Going back when I was a principal, and then I haven't been in the principal for a long time, when parents would call me, they would say they'd have a concern about their child's performance in the classroom. They'd say, I don't think my child's reading as well as they should be, or their math skills might be a little deficient. What's the direction that you would give them? What's the proper process if they're noticing that?
The first step is always communicating with the teacher.
Okay.
Right. So I'm very fortunate the teachers at Rockaway Middle School, and I'm sure I can speak for Mr. Wack and all the schools in the district, are very proactive in terms of being very communicative via email or via phone with parents if they do see any concerns. For parents, typically, as an in-district parent, one of the things that we advise you to do is to give the teachers a little bit of time to work with the student so that they can determine whether or not those concerns are valid. Because as we know as parents, a child at school can be a lot different than the child at home, right? So with that being said, we might be able to see something, a positive per se, with your child that you aren't necessarily seeing at home. But just give the teachers a little bit of time to work with that child. And if the teacher does contact you with concerns, or if you're contacting the teacher or the school counselor or child study team with concerns or the school principal with concerns, we will take those phone calls very seriously. We will look into them for you, and we will communicate and let you know what we do see and what we're not seeing. So those are the steps that we like to take, but it always starts with the teacher. And then, we try to get a team of school personnel involved if the concerns are very serious.
Sound rationale. Appreciate that.
Just to dovetail Mr. Cruz's remarks, I couldn't agree more. I think our teachers are outstanding with their communication. I always tell parents we have a 48-hour window. Teachers will get back to you within 48 hours, whether it's via email or a phone call. The reason it's 48 hours is you have to understand sometimes if a parent reaches out, teacher may have already had their prep time for that day. They have personal lives in the evening. They may not have an opportunity, but they will get back to you within 48 hours. If they don't, quite frankly, you do need to reach out to the principal to make sure that you're being communicated to. But the teachers, I think, are very, very good about that. I agree with Mr. Cruz. You have to give them a little bit of time to collect data and kind of analyze child's progress. But as a parent, you reserve the right to call, to inquire, to make sure. And quite frankly, as school personnel, we prefer that you do that so that we don't have an issue that gets progressively worse.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you guys have been very thorough with your responses, and I really appreciate it. I don't have anything else at this time. Is there anything that you guys would like to add?
The only thing I'd like to add, if I could, is just balance. Having been a coach myself in a former life, I know that there are a lot of extracurricular activities, and I think it's great that kids are involved in sports or, band, drama clubs, theater, and we want that because I think that in Parsippany we develop well-rounded children. We want them to be socially, emotionally, academically, physically equipped, but just be mindful of the idea of race to nowhere. Sometimes as parents, even myself, you get caught up trying to do too much, and I think it's really raised the level of anxiety for our students today. So I think nobody's a bigger proponent than I am, and I know Mr. Cruz, having coached as well, and you too, Dr. Sutter, to be involved in different things. And by coach, it could be anything, but keep it in perspective and understand that you don't want to burden your child too much at a young age, because there has to be balance.
Sure. That's a good point. Really good point.
I think another point with the coaching aspect of it, and also the social piece that we talked about earlier in our conversation, the town offers great sports programs through the recreation program. That's great for socialization. So, for example, if you have a child who might be a little bit shy, ask them if they're interested in soccer. Ask them if they're interested in flag football. There's also karate available through private practices throughout the town as well. Anytime that a child has an opportunity to socialize with children their age, it's always a good opportunity, right? Anytime they're part of a team, it's a great opportunity for them to learn about myself, right? Their own selves, but at the same time being part of a team and the whole rather than the individual. So little things like this, I think, are critical for our students. But as a parent as well, as Mr. Wack was saying, sometimes we put a little bit too much pressure on our students and on our kids. We have to take a step back sometimes, right? Listen to your child. If they're uncomfortable with something, try and find out what they're uncomfortable with. Take those concerns seriously. In addition to that, as a parent, also keep in mind that you need to stay balanced as well.
Mm-hmm.
You should find 15 to 20 minutes, if not an hour a day, where you can do something that's very healthy for you as well, because you don't want to get stressed out or burnt out. And the healthier you are, the more likely that your children will be healthier too, because they can feel your anxiety, or if you're stressed out, they can feel that as well. I'm definitely guilty of that. And it's one of those things where, maybe you do. Yeah. I think you need to take a walk around the block, or if you play an instrument, pick up the instrument and play the instrument. If you like to read. If you like to work out for a little bit of time. And it's also a very good practice to show your kids that, hey, pick up another interest. It helps you relieve some of that stress and some of that anxiety. And that can be at any age. Walks and going outside they make a huge difference for our kids. And it's one of those things that shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you believe in your children and you love them unconditionally, I think the sky's the limit.
I think that's a good point. Like, kindness goes a long way, right? When you come into a school, there's a lot that goes on in a school. People are experiencing different things in their home lives, but when you come into a school, kindness does matter. The way you treat people does matter. The reaction that you get does matter. And that's what I would say. I say you're in great hands in the Parsippany Troy Hill School District. I've been around the district. I've seen these staff members work with these young children, with all children. And I can't tell you how impressed I am with their creativity, with their kindness, with their patience, and just in general, the way the school system operates. It's a good place to be. And it's because of you. It's because of the staff. It's because of how well we work together. And I appreciate you both for being here, for doing this, for explaining to the parents, and for the way you treat people.
Well said. And I've often said you are the heart of this district. And as the HR director and now the superintendent, I know I speak for my colleagues. We appreciate you, and that kind of starts at the top.
Well, listen, I appreciate it. It's not an easy job, but you know what? At the end of the day, you have to look at what you're doing and focus on the good that comes from it. So, again, I don't have anything else for you guys, and I look forward to seeing everybody in September. I don't know if I'll make all the back to school nights because there's 14, but we have some on the same nights, but I'll be around. People know how to contact me. That's for sure. So I've gotten plenty of those. But anyway, wish you a good remaining rest of the summer, and we look forward to seeing everybody in September. And enjoy what you have left of the summer, and talk to your children. Get them excited for school.